Hey guys, I've been a little bit late to making this video, but for good reason. So, Season 7 of Overwatch 2 has dropped, and Sombra got her rework.
In my world,
And
there are no
I
secrets.
have very mixed feelings. Okay, actually I should be clear right out the gate. I guess first of all, let's explain what the rework even is. We're going to be here a while if I explain literally everything that's different. But the general gist is, she lost the passive where she could see people through walls when they were nearly dead. She lost the passive where she does more damage to hack targets. But now, stealth is her new passive, instead of being an ability that she uses on its own. It just does itself, you don't have to press the button or anything. And that's to make room for a new ability, Virus. Virus does this. No debuff, it's just a damage over time effect basically. If you hack someone and then hit them with Virus, then it is more effective. It does almost the same amount of damage. It does 110 normally, with hack it does 120 because the impact damage is increased. However, the main difference is that the damage over time happens twice as fast, in 2 seconds rather than 4 seconds if they're hacked. So yeah, thingy. So, other than that, the other big difference... Oh, yeah, you're going to notice, this is something we're going to get back to later. The servers are apparently dying right now. I am not doing anything else right now, except recording this and playing Overwatch, and you can see that the latency is going to be going crazy every now and then in this video. We'll get back to that. Anyway, so, I'm going to throw a translocator now, and you're going to instantly see how it's different. I did not press the button to teleport, that was automatic. So essentially, Translocator now comes back 1 second faster for a total of a 5-second cooldown. It now also is used automatically after a quarter of a second, whether you like it or not, either that or when it hits a surface.
Peace.
But it also gets thrown, I think it's at triple the speed compared to normal, so it gets thrown way further. This is pretty cool, I have to admit. The other consequence of this rework, because she no longer does increased damage to hack targets, Sombra's gun is now more accurate. It mostly is just that it takes less bullets for the spread to increase. So when you first start firing, she actually, for the most part, just fires exactly where you point the gun, and it only becomes a bit more spray and pray once you've started holding it down for a bit. Other than that, her gun damage went up by a tiny bit, going from 7.5 damage per bullet to 8 damage per bullet. And they got her EMP, kind of. They made it so her EMP takes longer to charge, 15% longer I think, and they made it so instead of dealing 40% of someone's health as damage, it only deals 30%. To put that in perspective...
Does not compute.
Yeah... Against squishy targets, as in 200 HP targets, this is pretty pathetic now. All EMP does is 60 damage, not even as much damage as a single shot from Anna's rifle, which is... yeah... And there is a reasoning for this. The reasoning is because if you come out of Infi's EMP and now use the new Virus ability, you can burst kill just about anyone. And so they want to reduce the damage the EMP does to make it feel a bit less like you're just dead for free. But in fairness, I think you're still kind of dead for free if you get solo EMP'd into, like, a virus. And I feel like, as well as that, most ultimates are like that. Like, if someone just decides they want to use their whole ultimate to kill you, 90% of the time there's not much you can do about that. And while I understand that's annoying, I think that's just kind of part of the game. It's really hard to get around that. So I really don't agree with this change. I do recognise that EMP was one of the strongest ultimates in the game, but I feel like that's pretty fair considering that a lot of the time on Sombra it really does feel like half of what you're doing is just building up to EMP. It obviously depends heavily on the kind of game you're playing, but depending on what the enemies run or what map you're on, sometimes you can just get stuck on a situation where while you can pick fights and get out alive as Sombra, you can't really get any kills until you get your EMP. And now EMP is going to take even longer to get, and it's going to be even less effective. Either way though, overall this is a good rework. Genuinely. I feel like Sombra actually gets to do way more than she could before, while losing some of survivability, but she already had way too much survivability, and she's still one of the hardest to kill characters in the game, if you know what you're doing on it. So this is all well and good. But I said I had mixed feelings on these changes, and these sound mostly positive, don't they? Well, here's the big problem right now. I have waited too long to make this video on Sombra, and I was thinking that I might have to put together some grand narrative, make some decent video, but honestly, I think it's best that I just tell it to you straight in this format, because I feel like Sombra is borderline unplayable right now. Not because of the rework necessarily, I actually think she was already in trouble before the rework, although some things the rework did exacerbated some problems. Now, I still don't want to call the rework bad, because I don't think the rework made any bad changes. I think the main problem is the meta we're in is already awful and has tons of problems which kick Sombra out of being usable. And until those problems are fixed, which I was really hoping the start of Season 7 with the patch notes they would hopefully do that, but no, they didn't. They've done basically nothing to fix the awful meta we had in Season 6, and if anything it feels like it's just gotten worse since then. The patch notes, I'll be real with you, the patch notes have been really bad this time around. I feel like you get an example of just about every way Blizzard tends to fuck up with their balance in this one, patch notes. And it's funny, because I wouldn't even say necessarily, if you just looked at these patches in a vacuum, without knowing the context of the update, like the season we just had, a lot of these changes probably don't even look that bad. But I feel like, in reality, a lot of these changes are just addressing things that aren't a problem, and not really actually fixing the real problems. So, one thing they like to do, of course, is they like to be a bit too kitty gloves with the characters that are the most despised and overused characters for extremely long times, and then they very, very slightly nerf them instead of really giving them a significant nerf. So as you can see, Orisa has gotten a nerf, which he needed, because Orisa has been by far the most unpopular and despised tank of Season 6. Sorry, did I say unpopular? Popular, but also despised tank of Season 6. And yet, despite that fact, and despite the fact she was also meta in, was it Season 3 or Season 4, where she had the old, I think it's Season 3, she was also meta. So, you know, she's been meta for a good chunk of Overwatch 2's life. Despite that fact, they still apparently can't bring themselves to nerf Orisa, even when she's at probably her highest point in strength in a long time. Now, in fairness, I think I know why this is. I think it's because Orisa is a character that, because they are a very low skill ceiling, it means that at the highest of ranks you can't push them very hard. And I imagine that means that, at high ranks, her stats probably aren't that good. Orisa's very good at not dying, if you don't ever overextend, but in fairness, Orisa isn't very good at killing unless you overextend. And while maybe in your games, on average, you see Orisa's getting away with that a lot, the higher you get, the less they're going to get away with that. So I can imagine that Orisa's probably not even that good at high ranks, just really annoying to deal with, because she's, well, as I say, really, really difficult to kill, especially now diving supports really isn't an option in the current meta a lot of the time, which is supposed to be the way you counteract Orisa. So this nerf, don't get me wrong, I think it's correct to nerf this, but I feel like it should have been 50 to 40, not 50 to 45. I think this is way too generous. This is actually a good change. I would get into it, but I think I need to focus on the downsides right now just to explain what's wrong. Mid-Season 6, they gave Zarya a buff which no one was asking for and made everyone miserable, and instead of realizing their mistake and reverting the changes, they said they would revert the changes, and then they changed their mind, and they were like, okay, let's half revert the changes, and only revert the changes that weren't a problem, and keep everything that was a problem. That being that now, whenever she gives an ally a bubble rather than herself, the bubble is 10% bigger, and on top of that comes back every 8 seconds rather than every 10 seconds. I can tell you, the second that the mid-season changes in Season 6, which used to be even worse, it used to be 25% bigger, and also the shield had more health, which means that you got more charge when it broke. Yeah, when that change came in, almost immediately, the game became miserable for me. Every quick play game essentially became a race to see who picks Zarya first, and if you pick Zarya, you win. Clap, clap, free win. Literally every time. I don't think I lost a single game in Zarya for that half of the season because of how stupidly OP she was. It was just bubble someone, hold beam, bubble someone, hold beam, bubble someone, hold beam. You'll never die, you'll kill everything in front of you. Not even Orisa can stop you because you counter Orisa. It's miserable. This change, I don't necessarily have a big problem with it necessarily as a way of I don't want him having damage resistant on combat roll, but be real with me, how many people watching this right now even knew that Cass had damage resistance on his combat roll? They added it at the start of Overwatch 2, but I won't blame you if you didn't know, because no one ever uses it. It's basically only used to survive a Tracer Pulse Bomb if it gets stuck onto you. And now with this buff, I suppose you can survive a Junkrat tire, but other than that, this does not actually change the way you play this character at all, and seems like a very weird change to make. The reason why I'm focusing in on this change, even when I think it really doesn't matter at all, is because this change to Cass is one which I feel like is a good example of another thing they tend to do when they have balance updates, which is add in changes that really baffle everyone, and I feel like are just added for the sake of having more changes in the balance patch, and not actually because it's a good change for the game. And I feel like this is a perfect example of that. I don't know anyone who was asking for this. I don't know anyone who really thought this was a good idea. I don't know why they're adding this, and I don't feel like it's at all even tangentially relevant to what's going on right now and what problems in the game need fixing. It feels like it's just there to sort of fill out the list. They reverted all the changes they made to Mei over the entirety of Overwatch 2 with this change, which is wonderful. I say that sarcastically. This is a good change, but I just feel like it's really indicative of the way things are going right now, that with Mei, they literally just had to say, yeah, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe all the changes we've been making to her have been really stupid and have served to do nothing but make her better at bullying tanks, but worse at playing the game against literally anyone else, when already the main thing that people like about Mei is making smart players with walls, and the main thing that people don't like is the fact she can just bully the tank for free all game. Every change they've made to her before that is being reverted in this set of changes were changes that only serve to make her even better at bullying tanks, making it more miserable for the tank player because every time there's a Mei they can't play the game, and even more miserable for the Mei player because all the Mei player is allowed to do is bully the tank. If they want to do anything else, they'll get punished for it. But thankfully they're averting that, but again, just the fact that they're even having to do this, setting off alarm bells. They also revert the Torbjorn changes. This is good in fairness. Torbjorn was a bit of a part of the problem in Season 6, but definitely a smaller part of the problem, and I feel like it's weird that they're focusing on Torb rather than, I don't know, Bastion, you know? I'm not gonna lie, I was quite soft on Bastion to start, because I've always thought that when people really have a problem with Bastion in Overwatch 2, a lot of times I kind of get the idea, do you guys just not know how to wait out cooldowns? Do you guys just not know that you have to get away when he's in turret form and come back when he doesn't have turret form, because it's a long cooldown? And I think that used to work, and so I had it in my head that people were still making that same mistake. But it doesn't even really work anymore in the current meta because of how ridiculously hard you can just bunker down, be immortal with heals, and then only go in when you have, you know, your turret form as Bastion, and never go in when you don't. And if you just do that, then you can't really be punished as Bastion. So yeah, Bastion might not always kill you if you're smart. If you're smart, you get away before he can melt you with turret form, but the fact that he can force you to get away when you're already probably playing against an Orisa and a whole bunch of healing, which makes it so that you barely get any opportunities to get in the first place. Bastion existing is basically just a, hey, you thought you were actually going to land a dive after you waited so many times this game for a single window of opportunity to land a dive? Oh, actually now I pressed the funny turret button and now you die if you want to actually dive, so yeah, get the fuck out of here. Not very fun to deal with. So I'm kind of baffled that Bastion isn't here. This change, oh my god. Don't get me wrong, this change doesn't, well, I don't want to say it doesn't change much, it definitely makes Brig stronger, especially because she doesn't do much damage in the first place. Like, she adds up to a lot of damage over time, but her time to kill is actually very slow. But that being said, this change is one of the perfect examples of a classic Overwatch change, where they just go, this character doesn't seem to be seeing a lot of play right now. Rather than acknowledge the fact that's probably because it's not a meta for them, let's pretend it's because they're bad right now, even though they were good in a previous meta when they were basically the exact same character, and let's buff them needlessly. Do you want to know what happens when this happens? Usually the patch it comes in, no difference. And you know what? That's been the case so far. I haven't seen any more Brig with this buff. I haven't felt any different playing Brig with this buff. In fact, if anything, playing Brig has felt worse, because they introduced a bug with this patch where Brig shield sometimes just can't block Diva bombs and sometimes just can't block Fire Strike. Yeah, wonderful. Now, sometimes, when I use my shield against an ult, there's just a 50-50 chance if the game decides it's bugged that I'll just die. So, that's cool. Either way, if you couldn't tell, what I'm getting at is I think that this is one of those changes. I think Brig, in terms of in a vacuum, as she is right now, is completely fine. I don't think she needs any buffs, I don't think she needs any nerfs. I think she's good as she is right now. I'd like to remind you that Brig was stupidly broken during Season 4, I think it was, and in Season 4, I remember I looked up her win rates at one point, just out of curiosity, and I looked at Grandmaster win rates on average for Brig, and I think it was something stupid like 61%, which is obviously ludicrous for like win rates across multiple people, like at a high rank. The fact she was winning that much shows that she was crazy OP then. And all that's changed with Brig ever since then is, if I can remember correctly, is I believe all that happened is her shield health went from 300 to 250. And don't get me wrong, that does have an impact on her, but considering before she was breaking the game wide open as one of the most overpowered characters in the entire game, and the only change she's received since then is losing 50 health on her shield, I think it's pretty safe to say Brig being rough right now is nothing to do with the fact she's underpowered. Brig's rough right now because we're in a meta that, as I said, damage and healing is way too high, and so that means if you're getting healed as Brig, you don't need your shield, because healing is so high you're practically immortal as long as you're getting healed. However, if you aren't getting shield, then your shield won't save you, because you're going to take so much damage so quickly that your shield will break in 0.2 seconds and you'll die before you can get any healing to save you. So I think the main problem with Brig right now is just in the current meta, her shield isn't very useful. But if we get into a more balanced meta, where people have more reasonable amounts of damage, where times to kill don't range from 0.1 seconds to 10 minutes, if we can get into a meta like that, then I imagine Brig's shield would come back in full swing and Brig would be a much stronger character again. So Brig doesn't need buffs right now, but I imagine she's getting buffs because behind the scenes I bet statistically she isn't doing that great because of the fact her shield is so useless right now. Oh yeah, I'd also like to take a second to acknowledge the fact, in case anyone wants to point it out. Yes, I am aware that the two extremely meta support comps right now are Bakalari and Ana Brig, and that obviously includes Brig. But in the Ana Brig support duo, that isn't a strong support duo because of Brig. That's a strong support duo because of Ana. If you didn't know right now, Ana is the most broken support in the game by a mile right now. Not because she's actually a poorly balanced character, once again, but because we are in a meta where healing is practically triple what it is usually. It's absolutely ludicrously, stupidly high, and it's very common for people to be basically invincible just because they are getting healed. Not even just, oh, it's harder to kill them, oh, it takes a while to kill them. No, like, actually they're just invincible, and no matter how much damage you pump into them, even if you get like a Bastion turret form in front of them, they will not die. When we're talking those levels of healing, of course the only character in the game who on an 8-second cooldown can completely deny all healing that enemies receive or amplify your own healing is going to be really good. Not because she's poorly balanced or poorly made, but because we're in a meta where healing's through the roof, and it's the only character in the game who can stop people from getting healed. So, yeah. Now, the reason why you run Brig with Ana, if Ana's so broken but Brig's having it so rough right now, is because Ana, the one thing she needs is someone to protect her. And Brig is the best choice you have if you want to run a support that acts as a bodyguard. Although in fairness, and to be fair, I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I personally feel like Alari is a good enough bodyguard for Ana, and I feel like Ana Alari might be better, just because if you can get your heal beam on Ana as Alari, she's basically unkillable as long as you have it. And if you can put a healing pylon near your Ana, then she doesn't even really need protecting if she's got a healing pylon. Like, that healing pylon will do the protecting for her. It will essentially act as a Brig shield. So personally, I think Ana Alari is better, but I don't know, I could be missing something. Most of the high-level players are playing Ana Brig or Bakalari. Either way. So, with all that said, I think I made my point. I think that Brig is not weak right now because she's weak, actually. I feel like, again, reminder, this is the same Brig that was breaking the game only a couple months ago. The only difference is her shield has 50 less health. So I feel like the only reason she's doing poorly right now is because, of course, she's not going to do very well in a meta where her shield only has two states, being useless and being useless because it's broken. And this is the only good change in... Okay, no, that's being good at the top. This is the only change that I'm actually really happy about in this entire patch. Them reducing the healing of Alari's solar rifle. And you want to know why I'm really happy about this change? Because this change reduced healing. Again, if I haven't made it clear enough, healing is way too high right now. Stupidly high. Just shouldn't even be close to the level it is at right now. Like, genuinely, I think if we woke up tomorrow and they halved the healing numbers of everything in the game, then that would actually be a change for the better. Literally, just, even if it's just like that severe amount of healing reduction would honestly be great. So, yeah. Anyway. So, even though this is a good change, I do want to point something out. When we are currently having more problem with healing power creep than ever before, how many healing reduction changes were there in this patch? Let's see. We have one healing reduction change. We've got a damage increase change. We got a damage reduction change. We've got a health reduction change. We've got a damage increase technically. A bit of a weird one, but yeah, damage increase technically. I'm going to count damage resistance ones as health increase changes. This kind of is both a health increase and a damage increase, considering, you know, bubbles help people stay alive, but they also give you more damage as Zarya. Effectively a damage increase, because it allows you to be more accurate. Kind of both a damage and health increase again, because it allows you to use Nemesis form more. And a health increase. Sorry, decrease. So, in this patch, almost everything that has changed has been related to either damage, health, or, well, no, that's actually, wait, no, that's it. Basically everything here has been related to damage or health, although some of them are moving it up, some of them are moving it down. They seem to really be focusing on the damage and health side of things, and not the healing, which is the big problem. So, yeah. I think, actually, I should have showed you this earlier. Here's a good thing that I think will help demonstrate why I'm so frustrated right now. So, this is why I think this reworked Sombra actually is fine as she is right now, but the reason why it doesn't feel good to play her is because of the meta. I'm going to switch this to a Life Weaver, and if you're not aware, Life Weaver is the only support in the game who has 225 HP instead of 200. So he has a bit more health than your normal support. And even with that extra bit more health, I want you to see how quickly I can kill this Life Weaver from full health. Now, I kind of messed that up a bit, but either way, you get the point. It's about, I don't know actually, because I haven't timed it, but I would guess just barely under 2 seconds time to kill. Or maybe it's 2 seconds on the dot. You can kill pretty fast. Now, in fairness, I'm obviously killing faster than normal because he's not moving, it's a training dummy, it's obviously really easy to land shots on him. But even that said, you get the point. You can kill real fast on the new Sombra, and you might think, if anything, this looks OP, but here's the thing that's absolutely terrifying, and I think a great way to help get it into your head why the healing being so high is this bad. The main reason why current Sombra doesn't feel good is because if the two supports simply decide to stick together, if they simply don't split, if they simply camp next to each other, and anytime you try and attack one, the other one heals them, I can tell you that this time to kill is not fast enough. That is not enough damage. You can heal people so fast right now that literally 2 second time to kill is too slow. You basically need a time to kill of about half a second from full health to even be able to like take down a support right now. That's basically what you need. And I know that this is the problem because the second I get into a game where one of the supports is Mercy, completely different story, because since the Mercy's flying around, she usually eventually ends up landing in a spot out of the sight of her other support, and the second that happens, I uninvis behind them, hack them, virus them, get the kill, every time. I swear, I wouldn't be surprised if more than half my kills on Sombra, ever since this rework, have been on Mercy, because it feels like playing Sombra right now, my job is just to kill Mercy and do nothing else. If I try and kill anyone else, nothing will happen, but I can kill Mercy at least, and it's like, well, I imagine this makes the Mercy miserable, because I'm obviously going for them all game and making them miserable and constantly killing them all the time, but I'm playing a character where it feels like I'm literally not allowed to kill anyone except Mercy. And again, I don't think that's because this rework is bad, I think that's because of how absolutely ludicrous heal power creep has gotten out of control. We really shouldn't be at the point where a Sombra can come out of invis, hack you, land their virus on you, land multiple headshots on you in a row, and you still just live because, oh, you were standing next to a healing pylon. You know, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, essentially, one of the main things about this Sombra rework that's made it feel pretty awful for me, when it should have felt good, is because it feels like whether I win or lose games has zero correlation with how much effort I put in on this new Sombra. In the current meta, it feels like whether I win or lose games basically comes down to, did they pick a support like duo that are going to stand next to each other, like Anna Brigg or Bapalari or whatever, or are they going to pick two supports that are going to stand separate from each other and I can hunt one of them down? If it's the latter, win every game. Literally, just a free win on a silver platter. Here you go. You just get to bully them all game. Have fun. If it's the former, then, well, let's just say that you might have the highest damage in the lobby despite the fact you're playing Sombra by the end of the game, and yet you still probably won't have a single elimination. Well, I say that's a bit hyperbolic. Of course, usually you would at least get eliminations when you use EMP, but oh wait, they nerfed EMP, didn't they? Not to mention that if the game's going poorly enough, you might not even be able to build an EMP before the end of it if you're getting stomped that hard. So, it's really felt like it's been quite miserable trying to play this new Sombra, and it feels like the best thing I can do is just ignore the new Sombra until the meta shifts. because it really just feels like every single game that I'm trying to play Sombra, if I swap to Soldier, we win instantly. And I know that, because that's what I do. I try and play Sombra for the first half, realise it's hopeless, swap Soldier, oh look, we won, almost instantly the second I swap Soldier. But then, swap back to Sombra, oh, hang on a moment, we're losing now. And a lot of the time, it's really just because there's two supports stuck to each other, and there's nothing you can really do about that as Sombra. And again, as soon as there's two supports that don't stick next to each other the whole game, then I can absolutely stomp on Sombra, but two supports stick together, that's it. Your whole character's just broken by that, because Sombra doesn't have any means to force them to split themselves apart, and the only thing she has that even does something close to that is EMP, only again, EMP nerfs. So, yeah, it's quite a rough situation. I'm only hoping that the Roadhog reworks coming mid-season in this season are going to land a little bit better. It's really a shame because I feel like this season should have been so good. I feel like if this season they simply had some better patch notes. Like, I'm not even asking for, like, a miracle. I'm not even asking for them to fix all the problems with the Season 6 meta in one single patch note. But even just some patch notes which felt like they significantly shifted the meta. That's all I'm asking for. Just patch notes that made it feel like I'm not just playing against Orisa, Bastion, and a Brig again, like I've been doing for the past couple months. You know, that would have been nice. But unfortunately, that's not been the case. Unfortunately, even though everything else about this update is good, the Sombra rework is good, the Halloween content is good, I haven't even talked about the new map. The new map Samoa I think is great. But it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, we're still playing the same game. This feels exactly the same as Season 6, if not worse. And that's really, really sad. Because it shouldn't be like that. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, the servers have apparently been dying ever since Season 7 started, and yeah, that's not been fun. That's also made playing the new Sombra miserable, because half the time I throw out a virus at someone, they teleport through it without getting hit, because my ping just spiked to 200, which is nice.